Hello, everyone, and welcome back to our governance call number 19. We are back after a little break last month because of holidays and conferences. And to all of you who are new to the call, I just want to point out I don't always sound like this. It started out as a sore throat and ended up with me waking up and sounding like a broken version of Joe Cocker. So I'm really sorry about that. I hope you will manage and I won't damage your ears too much. So the plan for today is to start with a governance update, brief update about what's going on in our DAO with proposals. And then we're going to hear from New Silver and Kirill about the proposal they recently made on MakerDAO to raise the debt ceiling and what it means for both New Silver and Centrifuge going forward. And then there is a proposal in our own DAO, CP58, which is the Treasury spending agreement that Cassidy will talk us through. And then there's also another proposal made on Aave DAO by Assad, and that's also a Treasury proposal that we will hear about. So some exciting stuff on the agenda. So that's what's on the plan. And if there's time later, we have some other things we can talk about, but this is the agenda that we would like to go through. Now, as for a governance update, it's been a couple of quiet months in terms of governance, but that's about to change now. So there are some proposals that we are going to govern together that is going to require input in discussions and also voting. So let me just share my screen here. Can you guys see my screen? All right. So this is the monthly post that is made on the forum about the governance update. And as you can see, there are three ongoing proposals right now. One is the pool rewards parameters, which is one that is just made today. And it's in the RFC stage, so it's still open for discussion. And it proposes how the CFG rewards are going to be going forward, both on Tin Lake and on Centrifuge chain. And then there are two proposals that are open for an Opensquare snapshot, so it's an off-chain vote. And that is CP58, the Treasury spending agreement, which we are going to talk about in the call later. And then there's CP59, which is the linked pools. And both of those are open for a snapshot vote. So I'm going to show you exactly how that works, because any CFG token holder can go in and vote on these proposals. And it doesn't require locking up tokens or transferring tokens or paying any transaction fees. You just vote yes or no on the proposal, and you don't even have to select an amount. You just use the balance on your account. So if you go to Centrifuge, the Opensquare for Centrifuge, we can see that these two are the active ones that I just mentioned. So if you go to CP58, that's the Treasury spending agreement. And the background for this proposal is that we recently started funding our Treasury with block rewards. So our Treasury is accruing CFG, and we need to agree as a DAO on how we spend these funds going forward. So this is a proposal that aims to make an agreement like that, like being conservative in the spending of the Treasury funds and not starting any large grants, and also raise the minimum quorum in the council for a Treasury proposal to pass from 50% to 66% of the council, meaning that 2/3 of the council should vote in favor of a proposal in order for it to pass. So this is basically what this one is about. So if you agree with this proposal, you just click yes. If you don't, you click no. So you basically just choose your option here. So I'm just gonna show an example what it's gonna look like. And let's say I want to vote yes. Then you just, well, firstly, you need to connect your wallet. Small thing. Click on your wallet. You select on the list here whichever ones you want, you have your tokens in. And then you can see if you go down and select either of these two options, it's going to show you your available balance. So this is the balance you're going to vote with. So you cannot choose how much you want to vote with. You just vote yes or no. Then you click on vote. You sign the transaction. And it's done. It takes less than a minute. So it's very simple to do it. And as I said, you don't lock your tokens up. So there is no point in not using your tokens and contributing to this voting process. So if you have any tokens, I highly encourage you to just go and cast your votes and your vote. And as you can see, even though all of these, there are 3.11 million CFG that has voted in favor of this, but it still is marked as failing. And the reason for that is that we have a threshold of 4 million CFG that we defined in our recent change to the governance process. So it requires 4 million CFG to participate in every off-chain vote in order for the vote to be valid. So we still need some more engagement in this proposal. So this is the CP58, and I'm just going to briefly talk about CP59 because the voting process is the same. But with my limited skills as a developer, what I know about linked pools is that it is a proposal to manage the liquidity in the pools going forward. So right now, every pool has a reserve where you can deposit stable coins, and then those stable coins can be borrowed and will be returned with an interest at some stage later in time. And the goal of this proposal is basically to allow the reserve of one pool to act as a reserve for other pools as well, and linking them together that way. That's as much as I can explain about this proposal. If there are any other devs in the call that can make this more clear, then feel free. This is what I can contribute with. So, but again, voting process the same, yes, no, vote, that's it. So very, very straightforward. So we would greatly appreciate that you contribute a vote in these two, and also join the discussion about the pool rewards parameters, the CFG rewards. This is usually something that the community is very involved in and have a lot of opinions on. So please check those three out. Now, that's all for the governance update. Usually they're not this long, but I wanted to show you how the voting process works. So it took a little bit longer. Are there any questions so far?
There's one in the chat for you, Orhan.
What does the lockup mean for these votes? I mean, there is no lockup, as I mentioned. Sorry, I didn't see in the chat. There is no lockup when you vote on Opensquare in off-chain votes. So even though you vote with all your tokens right now, then they're still available for transfer right after. So you don't lock anything up. That's the good thing about Opensquare Snapshot. What it basically does, it takes a snapshot picture of your balance and uses that as your voting power. That's all. Very simple, very straightforward. All right. Now, if nothing else, then I will actually move on the agenda and give my voice a few minutes break and pass it on to Kirill to talk about the proposal on Maker. So Kirill, can you please talk us a little bit through about that one?
Hi, everyone. Thanks. Actually, I have an issue with my voice too, so we're in the same boat. But yeah, I'm happy to, kind of give a high level overview of what we've done, and then if there are questions, I could probably, take them offline. I actually have to jump a little bit before the end of the call today. So essentially, this is, some of you might already be familiar with what we've been doing with MakerDAO, but we have, the integration with the MakerDAO vault, meaning that the senior, drop is deployed out of the MakerDAO vault. And we've been doing this for something like a year and a half or close to 2 years now. And we recently sort of institutionalized that offering. And what that means is we put together a legal framework that includes an indentured trust. So there's a third-party trustee, the trustee serving the interest of all of the investors, the senior investors, as the senior, and then obviously everyone else. So they're serving in the interest of Maker. There's other senior investors that could participate as well outside of Maker. And then there's a lot of separation of duties. There's different roles like an exchange agent, an asset manager, and other roles. So it really looks like a traditional securitization. I think pretty close to it. When I tell people about this offering, I tell them it's a mini securitization. I guess the total amount. I mean, we went up from 20 million from the Maker DAO side up to 50 million. And then obviously there's other investors. So the total size of the pool could probably be, 60 or more $1 million, or $1 million DAI, I should say. Yeah, I mean, so it is fairly close to a traditional securitization offering, with all of the different caveats and different roles. And obviously it makes it more complex for us as the issuer. But I think with the larger amounts that we're talking about, and the fact that investors at these amounts want more protection, it does, this is something that probably makes sense in that scenario. So yeah, I mean, I'm happy to answer any specific questions. Either we could do it now, I don't know, it's up to you guys, or I can take them offline in chat or a Slack or however.
If you have a couple of minutes, it sounds like Chris has his hand up, if you don't mind, Carol.
Absolutely.
Chris, go ahead, please.
Hey, can you hear me?
Yes, we do hear you.
Excellent. I'm driving, so sorry if the audio is not super good. Okay. Yeah, I mean, obviously very excited and interested in what you've done, Kirill, over time with New Silver, because we're trying to do something similar ourselves in the states that we operate. So would love to. I don't know how much time we have, right? I don't want to go great over time, but I would love to hear like a short synopsis of the history of New Silver on Centrifuge, what you guys have done together, and also curious about returns for the junior and senior debt, and how you guys have been thinking about that.
Sure. So on the history question, we were, I don't want to speak incorrectly right now, but we were either the first or the second pool launched on Centrifuge Tin Lake, back in 2020, was it, or 19? Yeah, it's been quite a while now. So we were one of the first pools in 2019. Thank you. We were one of the first pools, and I believe we were the first to be integrated with a Maker Vault. So we do have quite a lot of history there. I think that obviously, our pool has performed well. We've had no defaults. We initially went live. This is back in the times of zero cost of capital. So our cost of capital.
On the point of no defaults, I did see at some point that junior debt was negative returns. Any feedback on that?
Yeah. So I think this is just a technical issue with Tin Lake. So what happens if there is a loan that goes past maturity by even an hour or a day, it immediately writes off the total amount of the tin. So that's why if you happen to look, at that point, it'll look like a negative return. We have had loans that were essentially like either closed a few days late, or sometimes they close, they pay off on time, but it takes us, 3, 4, 5 business days to get the funds. So, it may look like it's late on Tin Lake, when in fact it's not, or sometimes it is late by a couple of days. But we have had no, could be a couple of days of default interest, but we've had no issues outside of that on the pool. So, so I guess like our the cost of capital in this new structure is going to be 7% for the senior debt. And then junior, it works like equity. So whatever is left over, depending on the average origination coupon, whatever's left over will go into junior. We're projecting about mid-teen to 20 returns to junior. We've had, I think that like right now with the cost of capital, it's still showing at a lower cost of capital because we haven't officially made that transition. We will do that next week. But right now,
what piece of the junior funds do you hold? Do Silver hold themselves?
We hold the majority. I mean, right now it's I think maybe there's around 6 million or so. We're about 4 million or so of that piece. So we're going to continue to hold a substantial chunk. I think 3 million is the minimum that we told everyone we're going to keep in there. We do have some.
The 7 points of senior debt on senior debt, like that seems very good. Is it reasonable to say that other similar funds might be able to pay 7 points to senior debt holders?
Do you mean the 7% is the return to senior, meaning to Maker and any other senior investor? I'm not sure if I understood the question.
Is it reasonable to say if there's another hard money lending fund or real estate bridge loan fund, is it reasonable to say that they could probably pay similar amounts?
I probably, yeah.
I mean, it's impossible for you to. Yeah. Okay.
Chris, I'm sorry.
Like we're thinking about.
Chris, don't mean to interrupt you. Would you mind? Actually, it seems like you have a lot of questions, which is great. Would you mind doing them offline and typing them on the forum, for example? Because we also need to move on with the agenda, so we have time.
Absolutely, I won't be able to. Yeah, I'll add this to the forum later. Thank you, guys. Appreciate
Cheers.
your time.
Thanks, Chris. Sorry about that. Anyways, if you have any more questions to Kirill, as he suggested, it would be okay to do it on the forum or on Slack or somewhere else. Is that okay, Kirill?
Yeah, absolutely. Reach out to me, and yeah, I mean, we're definitely very excited about this. Hopefully, this is a new era and kind of a step forward, I guess, with all the hard work we've done, and thanks to everyone at Centrifuge, the community that has supported us throughout. So yeah, happy to answer questions offline whenever.
I appreciate that. And also, by the way, New Silver has a pop on the forum as well to launch a pool on Centrifuge chain. So congratulations with that as well for submitting it. So far, so good. So thank you very much for coming, Kirill, and taking your time to answer these questions. And we can move on to the next point on the agenda. All right. Let's see. Next on the agenda, we have the Treasury Spending Agreement, CP58, which is up for a vote, like I showed before. And Cassidy, would you mind talking us a bit through about that proposal?
Yeah, sure. I think it's a pretty simple proposal. And the main thing that it's amending here is basically just making agreements as a DAO on being conservative in our spending of CFG from this on-chain treasury, as well as increasing the minimum quorum requirement that we have for treasury proposals. So this adds language to CP2, and it's raising the minimum quorum to 66% of the council voting yes, up from right now it's 55%. And that's really to be in line with this agreement that I'm proposing that we make together as a DAO, just to be conservative in how we spend CFG from the treasury. And the context here is that the treasury has been empty until the block awards have been implemented. So they've only now for a few weeks been implemented, and they're starting to accumulate in the on-chain treasury. And so yearly, this will come to, I think, roughly 14 or so million CFG. I'm looking for the exact number here. But I can link, yeah, we've got the Treasury Spending Agreement linked here in the chat, so you can take a look at all of the details in here. And so as this on-chain treasury is actually getting funded, I think this is really the context of making this proposal, that it has been empty, it's only getting funding now. And for this on-chain treasury to have the most impact and be the most powerful in terms of really being able to support the development of Centrifuge, it needs a good amount of CFG in there to really support the things that matter most. And so another agreement that I want to make here in this proposal is learning from the mistakes of other DAOs that have come before us and being more conservative as a result. And so one of the other agreements here is at the moment not starting a grants program until we have a much clearer proposal in place from someone in the DAO, hopefully, of how we could actually have a grants program that is diligent and able to create a proposal system here so that we can evaluate grants very well and not be in too much of a rush to just spend the treasury just because there's CFG starting to go into it. So I think that's about as much context as I can give there. Ivan, is this a question from you?
Yeah.
So I think, I mean, right now we have the CP2. So that is our process for funding requests from the Treasury. And so this is how, as CFG holders, we've decided to be able to decide how to use these funds. I think my ideal in the future is to see a more robust process here around how grants fit into that. And ideally, we see this coming forth in something like a group coming together within the DAO, just like we have the governance group, we have the credit group. I think it'd be really cool to see a group specifically focused on the Treasury and how to have responsible spending. So I think for now, to answer the question there, it's CP2 and using that as a framework for if you have funding requests for the on-chain treasury. And then I think from here, hopefully that will evolve both if we move to OpenGov, then we'll have to revisit how we use this framework within the OpenGov process, as well as if we have a new group forming that can maybe give us a bit more structure and understanding as a DAO and how we evaluate these requests.
Thank you.
All right, anyone has any questions to Cassidy or the proposal about the agreement? There have been a lot of inputs in the forum post, and the general consensus from what I could read is that there was support for such an agreement to make sure that we spend the funds wisely and learn from the other protocols, other projects, other DAOs. For instance, like for the Kusama Polkadot Treasury, where there's usually some sort of drama always around like what to spend the funds on and what not to spend the funds on. So let's just make sure we agree on how we do it going forward to avoid these kind of situations in our own DAO. So, but anyone has any questions to the proposal or any input on the proposal they want to share, enlighten us with?
Just a
ahead,
question for
sorry.
me. Yeah, sorry, maybe back to Cassidy, maybe a little bit late too. Is there like a mechanism for going from CFG to stablecoins? Do we have like an idea of how it's gonna be done, or is that kind of left to be determined when spending is needed later on?
I think this is something that ideally I'd like to see in this in a group that forms within the DAO that can, I think, one, like focus on how the treasury is spent, but two, and how maybe the treasury is able to convert CFG that it holds into stablecoin or vice versa. And I think engineering wise, that's something that's actually being in development right now for Substrate, to actually allow the treasury to have this sort of AMM that the treasury uses that's makes it easier for it to swap between currencies in a way that's not as easy to front run. So I think that's something that's becoming available for substrate-based protocols. And I think, yeah, once that's available, it'll definitely be a much more relevant discussion. And hopefully we can see a group come up within Centrifuge that's able to focus on like creating a better structure around this, like how we make these proposals in a way that makes sense, but also on how the Treasury, on-chain Treasury has the right sort of funds to actually be able to fund development in a way. For example, if it only had CFG and it only paid grants in CFG, you'd see teams that needed liquidity right away dumping that CFG immediately. And so we want the on-chain Treasury to be able to avoid that. And so, you know, I think a group such as that could maybe propose a good way to do that.
Thanks, Cassie.
Cool. I think as Orhan mentioned, that's live for a vote right now on Opensquare. So it'd be great to see some participation in that one.
Exactly. Thank you, Cassidy. Are there any more questions? Any more? Sorry.
Not a question, Orhan. I just wanted Cassidy, great job with this proposal. Kate, I think you worked on some of this too. I already voted. I just knowing that asset hub is going to be, you know, the dot swap or whatever they want to call it. The one thing I think we should probably think about is like how often you'd want to convert some of the CFG into stables, because, you know, I don't know what kind of price impact if you're trying to do it in bulk. And one thing that just popped up in my head, because you guys already have a working relationship with the Hydra DX team because of the Treasury and putting some of the CFG into the Omni pool, they now have that DCA feature where everything can be automated. So there might be a way to set up to where you slowly sort of DCA out some of the Treasury into stables that then you could use, and slowly over time, you're not going to have that price impact. And there's a lot of bots and stuff like that they set up, so it's not front run. Just thinking outside the box here, but just something to consider for that future group, or, you know, whatever conversation happens down the road.
Really great input, Ryan, as usual. Thanks a lot. So otherwise, if there's nothing else, we can move on to the next point on the agenda. Otherwise, speak up. I know you guys probably are not speaking just so you can hear me talk. You just want me to suffer, but I'll do it. All right, we'll move on to the next point of the agenda, and that is our very own Assad, who made a proposal on Aave's forum to the Aave DAO about it's a treasury proposal there. So I don't want to reveal too much. So Assad, will you take it away yourself?
Yes, sir. Thank you for the introduction. So recently, I think last week, officially, we made a proposal to the Aave Governance Forum. It's the temp check phase of the Aave proposal process. It goes through like a sentiment check, and then it goes to a formal proposal afterwards. We're in the first step of that. And our proposal was basically onboard to Centrifuge Prime, onboard Aave, the protocol, to Centrifuge Prime, use the infrastructure to diversify the treasury, start earning yield on your idle stablecoins. They have something like 15 million worth of idle stablecoins. And then ultimately you have infrastructure that could be used for the future for anything you want, or things like Go or other protocols or other investments in RWA. And then maybe adding some context to this, right, before I kind of get into the why this proposal and where it kind of came from. For a long time, we've been talking about Aave. We've talked about Aave Go, I think as early as, earlier parts of this year, before even summer. We've been talking about wanting to support this and working with the Aave community there. We have an existing relationship with them. We're pretty close to those guys. And it's really about kind of expanding these dedicated capital partnerships in the DeFi ecosystem. So, Kirill and his relationship with MakerDAO, part of the work that was there was actually establishing kind of the infrastructure, technical, and the protocol-to-protocol relationship between Centrifuge and Maker. And it's been a big part of our objective over the last year, I think, to diversify that relationship, find additional makers out there in the world. And obviously, we did that with Aave last year or the year before, and establishing the RWA market. Now, as they launch a stablecoin, there's, I think, significant opportunity to continue expanding that relationship. But as with any new stablecoin, things are very challenging, especially in this type of market. So if you've been following the Aave Go story, they've they've been seeing some interesting adoption trends, right? They've reached 20 million, I think, in total supply, but they've had trouble keeping the peg, right? It's a pegged fixed rate stable coin to the US dollar. And I think it's been below the peg now pretty consistently for the last few weeks. So that's not really a primitive that can be used for real world assets just yet. Kirill probably has some stories about the early days of integrating with DAI that I would love to hear one day. And when the peg fluctuates, I'm sure that causes a nightmare. So we realized that, look, Go is going to take some time to develop. The community has been really forthright about that and saying, hey, we really want to do this, but we want to take some time. So we kind of got creative internally and said, how can we help continue like our relationship with Aave, deepen this opportunity, continue getting Centrifuge out into the marketplace, but find a way to work with them without necessarily using Go. And the obvious one was treasury management, right? Kind of doing our own homework on our own treasury, trying to help others do their own homework with theirs. And they've got a substantial treasury and a really strong need for it because they have to cover a lot of expenses and lending coverage on their side. So that's the proposal in a nutshell. We requested for them to onboard through Centrifuge Prime. Part of that, what that means is basically today setting up the legal infrastructure and then establishing kind of a connection for them to invest in just a low risk treasury bill pool, which I think has been interesting. We've seen some conversation internally and externally in the market about this type of offering. And yes, we are bringing this to market, or we'd like to. And then ultimately, we want to provide that issuer for Aave. We asked for them to pay us in a small fee, percentage fee, kind of fee model, this type of stuff we're actually testing in the market with Aave. How can we actually get Centrifuge Prime, revenue to that type of product? And then ultimately, we also asked for a little bit of Aave tokens to just align incentives and things like that as part of the package. So that's kind of the proposal in a nutshell. You can go see it in the forum. There's actually been some really good engagement, really good discussion from their end. I would say actually that the Aave community, as they've always been with Centrifuge, has been really supportive and positive about it. I think this proposal will pass its temp check. We'll put it into the temp check later this week, and we'll then make the formal proposal sometime after that, maybe next week, 2 weeks from now. And I imagine it will pass actually, which I think is going to be a really big deal. It's we haven't been able to do a protocol to protocol collaboration in a long time. I think that's really part of this where the market has been and kind of a lot of internal work to change and react to that. So this will be a really good step forward to kind of bringing all the work we've been doing internally and developing externally to kind of forward in a more tangible way. I'm excited about it. You can check out the forum. I'd love if you guys could go comment, support, just throw some fun down on the forum. It's always good to see chat there from the Centrifuge community, or just throw a like if you'd like. Otherwise, happy to answer questions or hear any comments.
Thank you, Asa. So, questions, comments on this Aave Treasury proposal? I have one aside if there's no one else. No, it's more like it's not so much to the proposal itself, but it's about Centrifuge Prime. And I know most of us here have probably heard it and know what it is. But for those who don't know, could you explain that, like very briefly, what is Centrifuge Prime?
Yeah, sure. So this is actually it's always a good question. We get this a lot these days. This is a new product that we launched this year. It's technically in a beta since we're still kind of onboarding and rolling it out. And so it's not super well defined today because we're still working on it, but is the way I like to say it. But really, Centrifuge Prime in a nutshell is taking all of the work that we've done at Maker, which involves technical work, it involves legal work, it involves market work, developing relationships and partnerships and expertise, and basically offering that in a package for other service providers, other DAOs, other protocols in the DeFi marketplace to be able to use, right? So imagine all the work that Maker had to do to set up that infrastructure, all the work we had to do and our issuers had to do to establish that infrastructure with Maker. We're now packaging that together. We call it Centrifuge Prime, and we're allowing DAOs and DeFi protocols to essentially buy that service in the marketplace. What it actually does is Centrifuge Prime has a legal framework that you can use to set up infrastructure to invest in real world assets. We combine that then with the technical framework, which is obviously Centrifuge and the tech stack that we're building, so that they have a legal structure and then a technical infrastructure. And then what we do, which I think is also an interesting part of the Prime offering, is we bring service providers, asset issuers, and partners together to be able to make a kind of a unique offering for that DAO. So it's not kind of a one-size-fits-box type of thing. The legal structure is applicable across partners, but really it's about bringing kind of a tailored offering that meets that partner's needs. And so it's intended to be this kind of white glove, our community will work with your community type of service, and we'll leverage every bit of Centrifuge for your DAO and protocol, right? Things like the credit group, things like getting our asset managers and pushing them in front of their protocol so that they can see these opportunities, and establishing service providers like, for example, financial analysis, accounting, audit, things like that.
Excellent explanation. Thank you, sir. Chris, you have your hand up. Do you have a question?
Yeah, I mean, obviously, last governance call, which was now, I guess, a couple months ago, we were discussing DAOs and Centrifuge. So I'm curious, Assad, if you how that's progressed. Like, do we have any cool DAOs using Prime, or how's it looking?
Yeah, those conversations have been going really well. So like Aave is actually a really good example of where those conversations have developed to. I think that's kind of like call it a targeted first customer, right? And the sales cycles are long here. Obviously, it's like selling to complex organizations, but complex for many reasons.
When you say Aave, and when you say Aave, you mean in the sense that Aave bought into New Silver's thing, New Silver's.
This is not no. This is Aave hasn't. This is the proposal we're talking about here, Chris. So the proposal that we just made to Aave about the Treasury.
I see. Okay, so Treasury diversification type thing.
It's
Yeah.
Things.
Yeah, and then otherwise conversations have been going well. I think we have a lot of stuff planned for the later part of this year, and I'm happy to take this offline with you, Chris, and answer some more questions. I think it'd be a good conversation.
Yeah, give me a call after this. Sounds good.
Sure.
Another thing, Assad, you said this was the first protocol to protocol proposal that has been made. Can we expect to see more of these like going forward in the near term, short term, long term?
Yeah, definitely. And first one that's been made in a while, right? So like Maker was a protocol to protocol collaboration. The original RWA market and Aave was, I like to think of as a protocol to protocol collaboration, right? And I think this is kind of the model that we expect to be attractive in the market going forward. There's a lot of protocols out there sitting on a lot of bags, a lot of idle stable coins, and they want to connect and work with other decentralized ecosystems and partners to do the work that they need to. They don't want to have to, connect to the traditional financial system. So yeah, I think my hope is that we'll see more of this, and in a bull market, we'll see tons of this, and you'll see P2P transform from peer-to-peer to protocol, but I'll save that tweet for later.
Assad, would you want to meet other protocols that are similar? Like we, Lucky Friday, just have been talking to Liquidity, and you probably know their protocol. Like, do you want me to hook you up and like maybe get a meeting with you and Sam to talk? He's the head of growth.
Ryan, I would love for you to hook me up. I'm going to reach out to you and we'll talk about it. Thank you for making that offer. That's all. The Centrifuge community in action.
Yeah, let's go.
Awesome to see and hear. Perfect. Okay, we are moving forward. Kate, is that oh no, that's just a clap. That's not a hand raised. Oh, yes, let's do it. Any other questions to Assad regarding the Aave Treasury proposal? Any comments on it? I am personally very excited about this going forward, and I would actually love to like celebrate loudly right now, but I'm holding myself back for two reasons. I don't want to scare any new people away, and I want to save my voice as well. So, but I am very excited about this. So now let's see. This was actually all we had on the agenda. So it's freestyling from here on, and we have some backup plans. Is there anything anyone else want to bring up or ask before we move on? Anything related to governance?
Yes, actually, curious. Like last time we talked about the OpenGov thing. Curious if there's any motion on that. Any updates there?
Yes, there is. We have started the discussion on the forum, Chris. I can, Ivan, would you mind actually posting the link to the discussion post? Thanks. It's we started like talking about like what the implications are and what we should be aware of, and I do expect like within the next couple of months that it actually turns into a formal proposal with specific suggestions to what tracks to include what the parameters should be, and basically all these considerations. So we are still like semi in the research phase and the brainstorming phase. But yes, it is progressing, and you can see on the comments that there are a lot of good input from various people, from other DAOs as well, and from our own DAO, sharing their experience on what to keep in mind and what to, what to investigate before moving further.
Another point that came up last call was around inflation. Do we have any updates on that?
Regarding what? Sorry, I didn't catch that.
Oh, inflation, like what the plans are for Tin Lake in terms of how many rewards to give, and then inflation on Centrifuge, what the plan is.
Yes, right now, because we have a proposal, as I mentioned in the beginning of the call. There is request for comment that was created this morning. It's not on the agenda because the agenda was made before the proposal was posted on the forum this morning. So, but there is actually an RFC for how the CFG rewards will look like going forward on both Tin Lake and on pools that are going to launch on Centrifuge chain. So, Ivan, if you are actually up for it, can you share something with us?
Yeah, definitely. This morning I posted an RFC about the pool rewards parameter. This is a technical proposal which will touch pool rewards on Centrifuge chain and on Tin Lake. So we proposing to activate rewards on Centrifuge chain, and we are giving the notification if this proposal will passes that the rewards on Tin Lake will be winded down in 3 months. We also proposing to change the drop and tin rewards rate. We lower them for 58% for drop and 44% for tin rewards, which will reduce the rewards issuance rate up to 1%. So with block rewards and rewards on Tin Lake and Centrifuge, we have now 4.72% inflation. And if this proposal will pass, we will have 4% of inflation, which is great. In the second post, I just posted TLDR for who cannot read our proposal, and some graphic how the rewards will be changed and when will be stopped. Maybe one interesting thing that on Centrifuge chain, we will be much more flexible how to set up the rewards, so we will not have any more the problem with issuance that will increase with TVL. And we can set up for each pool rewards rate based on pool weight. So the pool rewards for some pools could be even 0.
Thank you, Ivan. So to sum it up like a very rough TLDR, then the tin and drop rewards on Tin Lake will be reduced to with the 58% for drop. And how much was it for tin?
44.
44 for tin. And then over the next 3 months, the rewards on Tin Lake will be phased out. That's what this proposal will do if it passes, right?
Yes, we're asking to mean the rewards for Tin Lake, and once these rewards will be finished, the rewards on Tin Lake will not be longer distributed. So the inflation on Tin Lake will be over, and we will have only rewards on Centrifuge chain that will be exactly 1%.
All right. So the if
1%. Sorry, just to summarize. So in 3 months, Tin Lake will be over. Centrifuge chain, we're thinking maybe 1% inflation. What does that inflation go to? Does it go primarily to investors or primarily to issuers or both, or how does that work?
So it's 1% as a rewards rate. So it's this proposal isn't maybe 1%. It is for setting the rewards rate for Centrifuge pools to 1%. And so that's just the rewards rate. And then
Rewards to who though? Rewards to investors or to the issuer?
to investors.
I got it. Cool.
So it would be senior and junior investors, because we won't have tin and drop anymore in centrifuge pools. So if you check out that forum post, there's more details in there as well, Chris. And yeah, definitely feel free to comment on that one. And then there's also the context of how this changes total issuance. So it brings that
And
down.
1% of the US dollar value, or 1% of something else?
1% of the overall token supply is the reward rate that's issued yearly.
Got it. And did anyone do the math on US dollar?
I mean, you're welcome to do that. That fluctuates daily. So
I
Yeah.
can give you some information about today. So today we distributing the rewards, and daily we distribute $6,000 daily. And if this proposal will passes, the rewards will be lowered up to 3.5 thousand.
On Tin Lake, but what about Centrifuge Chain?
And Centrifuge Chain, we don't have any pool live yet. So once the pools will be launched, we can see.
All right, very well. I will do some math for next time and share with the team.
Feel free, if you have any suggestion or feedback, feel free to post them on the forum. Thank
I
you.
believe Ivan also added that as a comment to the forum post, Chris. Some of his back of the envelope math is there in case you want to.
Yeah, maybe a nice thing to do would be for someone to build an app that just shows this. 'Cause, like, there's no reason why we need to be secretive about what the US dollar returns are.
Well, I mean, so Ivan illustrated that there as the first comment in the post, if you take a look. And then I mean, if you want to build that token dashboard, we would love that, Chris. But it is something that we're trying to get built, and we're talking to a team right now actually to build something that makes it more helpful.
I'm happy to build it. If you want, you guys can ping me. We have a chat, so ping me in the chat. Headman Centrifuge.
Cool.
All right. So thank you, Ilan, for sharing about the proposal. As I mentioned, this was just posted this morning, so it's as fresh as it gets. So please go and give it a read and comment on it, give your input, because this is usually something that the DAO is very interested in, something that affects all of us. So please do go and comment on it if you have any. All right, any other questions for this now? I know it's new to all of you. You didn't have the chance to read it probably, so you can go and give it a read and continue on the forum there. But any immediate questions popping up right now? All right. Now, we still have like 10 minutes left. I just want to share like two practical information before we move on and talk about something else. But next month's governance call is going to be pushed back 1 week. So instead of taking place the 20th September, it's going to take place the 27th September. I'll make that announcement and I'll make the adjustment in the governance calendar, but just to make you guys aware already now that we'll do it 1 week later next month, but same place, same time. That's the one thing. And the other thing is the poll app for attending this call. Jeff was so kind to create the poll app. So you would need to go to Discord and type in this code that I just typed in the chat to claim your poll app for this call as a proof that you attended the awesome governance call number 19. So that's just the two things I wanted to share. All right. Now, is there anything else? We don't have anything else on the agenda for now.
I mean, I have a question, I guess. Who would be best to reach out to about next steps for POPs? I know they're kind of defined somewhere, but our team is interested in doing a POP, and we'd like to do one the next month or so. We're talking to lawyers now on structuring, and would love to reduce those legal costs if your team is able to provide some guidance.
I mean, if there are no sensible information, I would say the forum is the best place for these kind of discussions. So like, anyone can comment on it there as well. So it's generally the best place to start a discussion. It's on the forum.
I understand. Okay, very well.
So I don't know if there are anyone in specific that can jump in, but that's, I would say, the forum for sure.
Excellent.
Yeah, Chris, if you have legal questions, put them on the forum and I can try to respond, or we can find somebody that can.
Who's that speaking?
This is Eli.
Oh, Eli. Like my Eli?
No, I don't think so. I'm the general counsel for Centrifuge.
Oh, okay, I have an Eli who's not general counsel for Centrifuge. Okay, cool. That's confusing, but nice. Okay, thanks.
All right. Good. Now we can, just another, it's not so much governance related, but now that we do have some time, I'll just briefly share with you that we recently had an opening for applications for our ambassador program, where we encourage people to apply to become ambassadors for Centrifuge. And it's closed now, the window, but we received 139 applications and they just started coming in, and there were a lot, and there were many good and interesting candidates among them as well, like with a variety of skills and backgrounds and from different geographic locations in the world. So we are very excited to go through these, and Ivan and I are currently reaching out to some of the candidates and having a short interview with them so we can get each other to know better, and then we will announce what the outcome of it is, like within the next week, 10 days probably. So just wanted to share that with you as well. All right. I don't have anything. I'm surprised my voice lasted this long, so I am extremely happy right now. Now, if there is nothing else, if nobody else has anything, then we can end the call a little bit earlier. There's no need for you to sit for the last 5 minutes and just listen to me. So unless anyone has any last words, I just want to thank all of you for coming again. It was great to see you again after this break. And we are looking forward to see you again next month, 1 week later, but same place, same time. Cheers, guys. Take care.
Thanks, Orhan. Great meeting.